Chapter 14, The Skeletal System, Part 1. Chapter 14, Overview. In this chapter, you will learn about the structure, functions, growth, repair, and disorders of the skeletal system. Specifically, you will learn about the components of the skeletal system, the functions of the skeletal system, the organization and functions of the two main divisions of the skeletal system, the tissues and cells that make up bones and their specific functions, the different types of bones based on shape and location, how bones grow, remodel, and repair, the different types of joints between bones, where they are located, and the ways in which they allow different types of movement depending on their structure, the causes, risk factors, and treatments for the two most common disorders of the skeletal system, osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. The skeletal system is the organ system that provides an internal framework for the human body. Why do you need a skeletal system? This is from your textbook. Without, you would be structured like a very large slug. Well, I had to expand on that a bit because slugs actually have cellulose, which is, as you know, a carbohydrate, interspersed within their body that actually gives them a form. So slugs have forms, right? If you see a slug, you know that it's not just like a puddle. It has a shape. So they have a form, but if you didn't have a skeletal system, you would not have cellulose, so you really would be even let's say flatter than a slug. Components of the skeletal system. In adults, the skeletal system includes 206 bones. Bones are organs made of dense connective tissues, mainly the tough protein collagen. Bones contain blood vessels, nerves, and other tissues. Bones are hard and rigid due to deposits of calcium and other mineral salts within their living tissues. Locations where two or more bones meet are called joints. Many joints allow bones to move like levers. For example, your elbow is a joint that allows you to bend and straighten your arm. Cartilage and ligaments. Besides bones, the skeletal system includes cartilage and ligaments. Cartilage is a type of dense connective tissue made of tough protein fibers. It is strong but flexible and very smooth. It covers the ends of bones and joints, providing a smooth surface for bones to move over. Ligaments are bands of fibrous connective tissue that hold bones together. They keep bones in the skeleton in place. Axial and appendicular skeletons. The human skeleton is traditionally divided into two parts, the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton forms the axis of the body, in this case an up and down, north-south axis. It includes the skull, vertebral column, and rib cage. The bones of the axial skeleton, along with ligaments and muscles, allow the body to maintain its upright posture. The axial skeleton also transmits weight from the head, trunk, and upper extremities down the back to the lower extremities. Its bones protect the brain and organs in the chest. The appendicular skeleton forms the appendages, so you can think about appendicular meaning appendage, like arms and legs, and their attachments to the axial skeleton. It includes the bones of the arms and legs, hands and feet, and shoulder and pelvic girdles. The bones of the appendicular skeleton make possible locomotion and other movements of the appendages. They also protect the major organs of digestion, excretion, and reproduction. So here we have figures of those. Support, shape, protection. The skeleton supports the body and gives it shape. The bones of the skeleton are hard and provide protection to the delicate tissues of internal organs. For example, the skull encloses and protects the soft tissues of the brain, and the vertebral column protects the nervous tissue of the spinal cord. The ribs and sternum protect the heart, lungs, and major blood vessels. Providing protection and allowing slight movement of these internal organs requires the bones to be able to expand and contract. The ribs and the cartilage that connects them to the sternum and vertebrae are capable of small shifts that allow breathing and other internal organ movements. Movement. The bones of the skeleton provide attachment surfaces for skeletal muscles. When the muscles contract, they pull on and move the bones. The figures below show the muscles attached to the bones at the knee. They help stabilize the joint and allow the leg to bend at the knee. The bones at joints act like levers, moving at a fulcrum point, and the muscles attached to the bones apply the force needed for movement. Hematopoiesis. Hematopoiesis is the process in which blood cells are produced. This process occurs in a connective tissue called red marrow, which is found inside some bones, including the pelvis, ribs, and vertebrae. Red marrow synthesizes red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Billions of these blood cells are produced inside the bones every day. Mineral storage. Another function of the skeletal system is storing minerals, especially calcium and phosphorus. This storage function is related to the role of bones in maintaining mineral homeostasis. Just the right levels of calcium and other minerals are needed in the blood for the normal functioning of the body. For instance, I'll add in here that calcium is very important in muscle contraction. When mineral levels in the blood are too high, bones absorb some of the minerals and store them as mineral salts. This is why bones are so hard. When blood levels of minerals are too low, bones release some of the minerals back into the blood. Bone minerals are alkaline, which is another word for basic, so the release into the blood buffers the blood against excessive acidity. In other words, it balances the pH, whereas absorption back into bones buffers the blood against excessive alkalinity, high pH. In this way, bones help maintain acid-base homeostasis in the blood. Bones also act as an endocrine organ. One endocrine hormone secreted by bone cells is osteocalcin. We haven't talked about hormones really much, but if we look at the word endocrine, endo means inside, and so these hormones are secreted inside the body, into the blood, and there are also exocrine hormones, and exocrine hormones are secreted onto surfaces, like your skin. In its carboxylated form, osteocalcin is bound directly to the bone and concentrates there. So carboxylated means it has an extra carbon, probably a carbon and an oxygen. Carbon and oxygen, carboxylated. But in its uncarboxylated form, in the pancreas, it acts as a hormone. So remember, when we add something to a molecule, it changes its shape. So you can look at osteocalcin, looks like it has an IN ending, it looks like it might be a protein. So proteins do change shapes when they have things connected to them, like sometimes a hydrogen ion or a other small particle, but in this case we're adding a carbon and an oxygen. So with a certain shape, it's going to bind to bone, but when its shape changes, it's going to act as a hormone. And hormones are defined by circulating in the blood. So when it's acting as a hormone, it boosts the number of insulin-producing cells and increases insulin secretion and the sensitivity of cells to insulin. And insulin is the hormone, which is also a protein, which facilitates the movement of glucose into cells. So bones actually have a function in blood sugar levels.